Jahnathan Lamothe has entered the portal.
You are Locked On Terps, your daily podcast on the Maryland Terps. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's up, everyone? I'm Tre Moore, video content creator for 247 Sports and InsideMarylandSports.com, and host of Locked On Terps, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. So thank you for making us part of your day. And today's episode is brought to you by Nissan. Are you the kind of driver that likes to push things a little further and even wonder what adventure could be around the next corner? Take the Nissan Rogue, the Nissan Pathfinder, or the Nissan Armada and go find your next big adventure. Check them all out today at nissanusa.com. Jahnathan Lamothe, freshman guard for Maryland basketball, has officially entered the portal. He announced just a couple of hours ago on Twitter the Terps guard has decided to enter the portal. And I've kind of gone back both sides on things, and I really can't come to a correct answer on the Jahnathan Lamothe entering the portal. I think there are two sides to it, and I think there's value to both sides of it, and I think you can look at it at both sides. Jahnathan Lamothe, just to give a little background and kind of my thoughts overall on how his season went before really getting into the transfer stuff, it was interesting because he came in as the third highest rated recruit in our class. He was a 4-star by multiple websites, and he was kind of the third guy. The class was definitely headlined first by Deshaun Harris-Smith and then Jamie Kaiser as well. And then Jahnathan Lamothe was kind of overshadowed at times by those two players, and he didn't really get the recognition that he deserved, because I've seen them all play live in person before they've gone to Maryland, and I didn't think there was much of a gap between Jahnathan Lamothe and Deshaun and Jamie. I really didn't see a gap, and I was like, maybe I'm wrong, or maybe the recruiting websites don't really know, but I don't really see much of a gap between Lamothe's game and Harris-Smith's game and Kaiser's game. But the way they recruited, the way they came in, Jahnathan Lamothe was kind of always overshadowed by those two and never really got the opportunity, I thought, to show himself this year. But when I saw him play in high school, I thought he was a legit player. I thought he was a really good player. And I'm not saying that he's not that, but I thought he was the type of guy that could potentially play pretty fast for Maryland basketball. But it just didn't come around like that. Things just didn't happen like that, and things didn't exactly work because it's freshman season for Maryland basketball. A lot of you guys know it just never really, he never really played, to be quite honest. He just didn't really play much, wasn't in the rotation, never really got that much time. And if you look at his averages, that backs it up. 0.8 points per game, 0.7 rebounds, 0.3 assists. But when he did get in the game, he shot 25% from the field, but overall didn't play. So I can't really judge the numbers at all. I just wanted to present you guys with that. But it's just kind of like, should he have gotten more time? Should he have maybe taken a redshirt year? There's different kind of ways you can look at it. I'd argue maybe he'd be better off redshirting this year if Maryland didn't think he was ready, or Kevin Willard didn't think he was ready, because clearly Kevin Willard didn't think he was ready, or he would probably be playing more minutes, because we had trouble scoring the ball. We had trouble shooting the ball. And a lot of Lamothe's game is about scoring the ball. He did a lot of that in high school. I think he had a game for St. Francis Academy where he went to high school where he had 40 points or something ridiculous like that, and broke their record for the most amount of points. But he appeared in only 13 games for the Terps, and that includes Big Ten postseason game. So this leads me to say I go back and forth on how I feel about Lamothe leaving. Does it help Maryland? Does it hurt Maryland? Does it help him? Will he go somewhere better for himself? I go back and forth. I always like to take the view of both the player and the team. I like to look at it as, does it help the player? Does it help the team? Because I think you can argue both sides. For example, for the Julian Reese, I think there's a reason to believe that for him to transfer could make a lot of sense for him, but will also hurt the Maryland team. But for Jahnathan Lamothe, I kind of go back and forth, and I can't settle one opinion from one side on this. It hurts from the Maryland side, of course. It hurts that you're losing a guy like Jahnathan Lamothe. He seemed like a pretty good guy off the court. He seemed like a likable guy that a lot of people liked. And then also, he still was only a freshman. Even though he didn't play much as a freshman, most people in college basketball, college sports, whatever sport you're playing, basketball, football, hockey, baseball, lacrosse, whatever sport that you're in and that you're playing in college, it doesn't really matter. Most freshmen don't play. So for him not playing as a freshman, maybe it's a little bit scary because of how bad we are, and you would think that the Terps would want to try something out. But at the same time, he's only a freshman. Most people don't really play until maybe their sophomore, junior, or even senior year. It takes time. Even the highly rated recruited ones, sometimes it just takes time for them to get used to college physicality or the college speed of the game or just playing a different way. It's a big difference in the type of game that you play from college to high school. In high school, he was teammates with Carlton Carrington, who's at Pitt now at St. Francis, who's looking like he's going to be an NBA pick, maybe a lottery pick. Those two guys were teammates, and at St. Francis, they were able to kind of just play one-on-one ball, and it would go back and forth really between those two when I watched them play. And they also had a really talented guard when I watched them play that Maryland also wants, but it would kind of just be like individual balls. There wouldn't be a lot of sets. But that doesn't happen in college basketball. It's a lot tighter. It's a lot harder to make a lot of those plays. Defenses are much better, and so it's harder to adjust. So I could see that maybe playing a role in why maybe he just never really got a shot. Maybe he just wasn't ready to play in the Maryland system, in the college system. But at the same time, it's like, that's why I say, like, I wanted him to develop. I wanted him to get better. And that's why I think it hurts Maryland losing him, because I think you could have developed him into something really good. Maybe he wasn't a star. Maybe he was never going to be like an all-conference type of player, but maybe he could be a really good, solid guard for Maryland basketball. And maybe he developed into something more. You don't know. You have to wait. And that's why I think it hurts Maryland basketball. And that's the one side that I take from it, that it hurts. And it's like, you didn't let this guy develop. You didn't see what he could become. And that's just one side of it that you can take. And then, of course, the other side is like, it kind of helps Maryland basketball because, to be honest, I never was really impressed with what I saw on the court. Like I said, it takes time for these guys to develop. But I'd be lying if I told you guys he looked like I saw flashes of something he could become. I didn't really see much, to be honest. I didn't see a lot of like athleticism. I didn't see a lot of explosiveness in terms of just him as a pure athlete. I didn't see a lot of scoring. He looked very tentative when he was out there. He looked like he was more scared of making the mistake rather than trying to make plays and not worrying about making a mistake. Because Deshaun Harris-Smith and Jamie Kaiser, they had up and down years, but I never felt like they were scared to make a mistake. Maybe Deshaun Harris-Smith, a couple times he passed up shots, but his shooting percentage was pretty bad, where it's like you might just have to pass those up. But Kaiser, I never felt like he lost confidence in the shot. It looked like he kept shooting it. Didn't really matter. And sometimes that pay off, sometimes it won't, but that's part of being a freshman. But I never really got a sense that he had that confidence in himself. But that makes sense when you're not playing big minutes, consistent minutes. You're probably going to go in tentative, scared, because you don't want to get your spot taken, or you don't want to lose time that you're actually getting. You haven't gotten used to it yet, so it makes sense. But that is the one side I can take. It seemed like he needed time, like he wasn't ready. And it's like, that opens up a scholarship for Maryland basketball and for Kevin Willard to work at, to have. And so it's like, okay, so Kevin Willard now has an extra scholarship. So would we rather bank on developing Jahnathan Lamothe or using someone in the portal? I think it all depends on who you bring in. It depends on who they get in the portal. It depends on how they recruit. That's how I look at it. Personally, you can look at it both sides. It hurts because you lose a guy that you were going to develop into a really solid player, or it helps because you opens up a spot for Maryland basketball. It really, I think it depends on who Maryland brings in, who these couple players. They have 3 open spots now to bring in transfers, and we'll see what they can do with that. Of course, you have Derek Queen and Malachi Palmer coming in. Malachi's a guard as well, so he was kind of going to be in a similar position as Jahnathan Lamothe. But it's going to be interesting to see if this helps or hurts. I got to wait to see what type of player they bring in the portal. If it's somebody I'm not really fond of, I probably won't really – I will probably tell you guys. But then it's like I rather just kept Lamothe and let him develop. But if it's somebody that I think is a really good basketball player that's ready to help, then it's like I rather have that guy probably than have Lamothe, honestly. And that's just how I feel about it right now. But from his perspective, quickly, I want to address from his side, I don't think it's a bad move because I don't know his spot in this program. You got Deshaun and Jamie, both kind of guard-ish wings kind of in front of you, and Lamothe is kind of that guard that can play to the point, or he can play, I guess, the shooting guard spot. And it's like you got these two guys above me, and then Maryland looks like they're looking to bring in somebody else, whether it's Rodney Rice, a guy that I'm about to talk about in a different guy I'm about to talk about in a second, and Jacoby Gillespie, I'll go ahead and tell you guys, or one of these other guys, Doug McDaniel, Malik Mack. There's multiple guards that Maryland looks like they're looking to bring in. And so it's like, would I ever get the time? Would I get time next season? He wants to play. So it kind of makes sense, I think, from his side of things. But you can really go different ways, different perspectives. Let me know what you guys think about it. Maryland sets up a visit with a key recruit. I will tell you about that after this ad from FanDuel and Nissan. Say goodbye to busted brackets because FanDuel lets you bet on every game of the tournament. Today is the first day of March Madness, so make sure you guys get FanDuel because I know personally it's one of my favorite days of the year with all the games. And whether you're betting on big upsets or a one seed, it's time to go dancing on America's #1 sportsbook. Right now, new customers get $200 in bonus bets if your first bet of $5 wins. That's $200 to use on point spreads, money lines. You can even pick who's going to win it all, whether you think UConn, whether you think Kansas, whoever you think, Houston, North Carolina, Duke, a blue blood, someone that's an underdog, whoever you think is going to win it all, you can bet on that with FanDuel. So make sure to visit FanDuel.com/lockedon and bet on college hoops until they cut down the nets. This week's March Madness bracket highlights is brought to you by our friends at Nissan. Each week we're picking one team that stands out, a team that's pushed further than the rest, just like any of the all-new 2024 Nissan SUVs. These guys were able to take it to the next level. The UConn Huskies can only be described as an Armada. The top seeded team is as hardcore as it gets out there, so it's no wonder why they've landed the top overall seed in the NCAA tournament. They're one of the favorites to win it all, despite 4 of the 6 Power 6 conference champions standing in their way in the East region. The Auburn Tigers can only be described as a Pathfinder. They've been thrilling to watch and have created a lane for themselves after claiming the top spot in the SEC as they knocked off the Florida Gators in the SEC Tournament Championship. They're set to make a run in the NCAA tournament. The Oregon Ducks are obviously this week's Nissan's Rogue. The team absolutely surprised us all with a powerful performance in the final Pac-12 tournament, patching their ticket to the big dance. They say win life, go Rogue, and that's exactly what the Ducks have done here. Take the Nissan Rogue, Nissan Pathfinder, or the Nissan Armada and go find your next big adventure. Shop NissanUSA.com. Maryland set up a visit with a key recruit that Maryland absolutely should look into, and Maryland's going to need a guy like this if we want to get back to where we want to be next year for Maryland basketball. It's portal season. I continue to talk about it. I think that's the biggest news right now is all this stuff going on in the portal, whether it's Jahnathan Lamothe just entering the portal or Noah Batchelor and Caleb Swan Rogers entering the portal, and then all the guys that Maryland's reaching out to. Kevin Willard should be working around the clock, trying to recruit guys to Maryland, trying to get guys. And one of these guys that I think Maryland has maybe a shot to get, and that would be a really good, perfect pickup, is Jacoby Gillespie is in the portal, and he's a really high-level player A lot of you guys probably don't know this guy. I didn't know who this guy was until I saw reports about him, but I did a little bit of research and saw that he's a really good guy and a type of player that we want. He comes from Belmont and is originally from Tennessee, and he's one of the bigger players in the portal. And he went absolutely crazy in his or maybe not crazy, but he had a really good sophomore year for Belmont. Averaged 17.2 points per game, 4.2 assists. I haven't been able to watch him a lot on film, but I really want to see what this guy's about. But he looks like he has a really solid game, and he made big-time improvements from his freshman year to his sophomore year, and that's a big reason why I like him, and I think Maryland should get him. Look at the improvements that he made from freshman year to sophomore years. In freshman year, he averaged 9.6 points. That went up to 17.2. He averaged 1.8 turnovers, and last year he averaged 2.4. So the turnovers went up, but that makes sense with the amount of production that he's having. He went from having 1.5 steals per game to 2.2 steals per game in his sophomore year, went from 3.3 assists to 4.2 assists, 2.1 rebounds to 3.8 rebounds, 71% from the free throw line to 83% from the free throw line, 29.5 from the three-point line to 38.7 at the three-point line, and 45.4 from the field, and 56.1 from the field. That is a pretty big increase in almost every stat. That was a positive increase besides the turnovers. So we're looking at a guy that got a lot better. We saw growth. So we know he can grow and continue to get better. And I like guys that show that they definitely put in a summer of work overall. But I think he's exactly what Maryland needs right now, a guard. With Jahmir Young gone, of course Jahmir Young is gone now that he's graduating. We don't have him anymore. We don't have his scoring ability. I talked about it with Doug McDaniel, but I think this guy is another option next to Doug McDaniel that we could use. We're just going to need a point guard. That's what it really looks like. One of the players that we're going to need to get in the portal is a point guard. The rest is really going to be decided by who else enters the portal. If Julian Reese decides to stay, then I think our front court looks pretty good. We could use a backup big for sure, but I think you have your starters in the front court with Queen and Reese. But if he decides to go, then you also need a big man. But I think right now, goal number one is to get a guard, and this Jacoby kid looks like he's exactly what we need with Young gone and Lamothe entering the portal. He also shoots the ball well. Like I said, he shot the ball 38.7% from the three-point line, 56% from the field, and 83% from the free throw line. Maryland needs some of that right now in their lineup for sure. And then he also rebounds the ball really well for his size at almost 4 rebounds per game. That's a really solid spot for the kid. So I think he's a guy that we could really use, but there's definitely some question marks about his game just because he hasn't done it at the high level yet of a Big Ten type of conference like a Doug McDaniel. We've seen him do it in the Big Ten now. So will it translate to that level of college basketball? I don't know exactly, but there are a ton of schools that are interested in him. Virginia Tech, Maryland, of course, Indiana, Kansas, Florida, Georgia, and so many more. I'm sure that was just the first report. I bet many more have reached out to him. So we'll see if we actually get a chance. But if Kansas and all these different schools are reaching out to him, I'm sure they think that his game will absolutely translate. As long as we don't lose him to Indiana. I do see reports about Indiana wanting him. But I think Jahmir Young can be used as a pitch. How well he played last year being a first-team All-Big Ten, I think you can use that. Similar to what I say about Maryland football using Talia as a pitch to their quarterback recruits, I think you can use Jahmir Young as a pitch. See what Jahmir Young did here, and then you can tell him you can come in and play right away for us, which could be big for both sides. I think he's the type of guy we need on our team. Maryland needs to get back to March Madness. I will tell you about that after this ad from Amazon. Fire TV is your destination from sports. From live games to highlights to in-depth analysis, Fire TV offers amazing viewing experience with smart TVs, as well as a Fire TV stick that you can plug into your existing TV that provides access to millions of movies and TV episodes, as well as free and live TV. Whether it's opening weekend for baseball or the college basketball tournament, you're going to want to have a Fire TV. Fire TV recently created Fire TV channels to deliver a constant supply of the latest videos from your favorite sports brands, all for free. That includes all of us at Locked On and most of the big pro leagues and college conferences as well. Fire TV channels let you dive into all the game analysis, highlights, and more to keep up to date on the latest in the world of sports. March Madness, NBA, MLB, and lots more. Not to mention great news, entertainment, gaming, travel, cooking videos as well. Check out Fire TV channels on Fire TV and Alexa devices. If you haven't checked out Fire TV channels, you should. Trust me on this. To learn more, visit www.amazon.com/LockedOnFireTV. Maryland basketball needs to get back to March Madness. After seeing all this stuff about March Madness today and the brackets and the picks and everyone talking about the upsets and the favorites and who's going to win and all this different stuff that goes on with March Madness, your Final Four pick, whatever it is, me seeing this on TV, seeing some good games already in the first four, seeing UVA get crushed, seeing a couple of overtime games, Maryland needs to get back. They absolutely need to get back. I'm tired of seeing March Madness reports. I'm tired. Well, I'm not tired of it because I love the tournament, but I'm tired of Maryland not being in it, even though we were in it last year. I hate the feeling of not being able to wake up on a Thursday and think Maryland's playing an 8-9 game versus West Virginia or something like that. It kind of just stinks to not have anything to like a team to get excited about in March. You get excited about the day and the day of games, and it starts today at like 12:20. It's really cool how they start in the afternoon. I love that, honestly. It's going to be a really good day of college basketball. Actually, I think Michigan State plays at 12:20, but it's just not the same vibe as if Maryland is in it versus if Maryland's not in it. And I think we have to get back next year. I don't know how we're going to do it, but since today was March Madness, I wanted to talk about this. I don't know how we're going to do it. I don't know how we're going to fix this thing. I don't know if it's even realistic to think that March Madness is a thing that we could potentially get to next year. But if Kevin Willard can figure it out, how to get to the tournament and how to be a decent seed, I think that is all Maryland can ask for. Maryland fans can ask for. No matter how weird the season is, no matter how it goes, if you get a bid in the tournament, then all can be forgiven. Even if you lose early on in the tournament, if you get a bid and give your fans that type of excitement, everything is okay. But we didn't get that this year, and I really just want to get back. I'm curious who you guys have winning your brackets. I filled out a couple. I keep on going back and forth. Some of me thinks that UConn is going to win it, but at the same time, I'm like, do people really go back to back? Some of me thinks maybe a team like Arizona can win it. Maybe a team like UNC can win it. I don't know. I go back and forth, but I know that I want Maryland in the tournament. That's one thing I know for sure. So can we fix this? Can Kevin Willard land us? Take us back to the promised land, build a roster that Maryland basketball is used to having. Okay, maybe not even get like a 10 seed, but maybe get like a 5 or 4 seed and have a really good team. Can Maryland basketball get back to that? Get back to the glory days where it felt like we were a March team almost every year. There was a point under Mark Turgeon where he did a really good job recruiting, where it's like that phase where we had like Trimble and Cowan and Kevin Herter, Justin Jackson. There was like a phase there where it's like he's doing a good job recruiting. We're making the tournament. Things are pretty good. But obviously things ended bad. But can Kevin Willard get to that consistent tournament play that I think the Maryland program deserves and the Maryland fan base deserves? We're not a huge football school. A lot of people are into the basketball, and it's what matters. And I don't know if it's NIL that's going to hold it back. I don't know. There's different things that can hold it back. But we were supposed to be a tournament team this year, so I want to see Maryland back, and it would make March Madness vibes so much better if Maryland was in the tournament. That's all we have for today. Thank you for listening to Locked on Terps. Make sure you like and subscribe. We're here every day talking Maryland football and basketball. So thank you for listening to Locked on Terps.